Well, Liam, it's your last home game of the season. I guess it would be great to maintain the form and go out with a bang at Ashton Gate.
Yeah, that's a big bit. Try and finish on a positive. A lot of fond memories there over the course of the season. So it's about trying to create another one in the final game. So working like normal this week, and like I said, it's making sure that we build on the good stuff recently and finish extremely strongly.
Yeah, we weren't sure last week about Zach, whether he'd play or pass or not. Is he in or out for the weekend?
We've still got a few days. He didn't train today, so he was still feeling it a little bit. So we'll see how he is tomorrow and the coming days. But yeah, it's looking doubtful at the minute.
Rotherham already relegated, but with Steve Evans in charge, they're going to give you a game.
Yeah, of course. When you look at Steve's sides and what you'll face is an extremely honest, hard working group of players that are willing to run and compete, and they've got some players with some experience as well. So we know it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, they naturally tend to get that little bit of a bounce with a new manager coming in. So there'll be a lot of players there with a point to prove, I'm sure, to him. So we have to make sure that, as always, we do our work properly and that we turn up and we're ready to run, ready to fight, to compete, and we take care of the basics.
Is this a good test for next season in mind, if you're playing a team bottom of the table, to do a job on them?
Yeah, I'm not really looking too much, to be honest, at league positions, and they change quite frequently. And again, I think it's more understanding, how do we make sure the game looks how we want, and how do we make sure we get the outcome we want, and that always starts with the behaviours that we need to show, which I just mentioned, and then obviously trying to get a control of the game in the way that we want. You
spoke at the end of the international break about going into an 8-game block and finishing well. Has it gone better than you expected?
I'm not sure what my expectations were, to be totally honest, in terms of going into it. I think it was more around trying to consistently perform to a level that we've shown in glimmers before that. And I think we've definitely progressed and shown a slightly newer side to us, I think, in terms of the resilience, the fight. Obviously, the clean sheets were a big part of what we did as well, in terms of, if you look at our defensive record, it's right up there. So again, I think, it's making sure that we keep that. And then obviously we look to improve on the attacking side of things. And that's probably what pleased me against Norwich. I really enjoyed a lot of us with the ball. I thought, the way we controlled the game, naturally away there with their form as well at home. Norwich, we half expected them to come out and have a right go at us at the start of the second half, but I actually thought we started the second half really well and controlled it how we want by passing the ball with quality, but with purpose as well. I thought that was the big bit I liked. There was large spells where we had the ball, but we progressed up the pitch and sustained it in the attacking half and got into good areas. So there was lots of good from that, which again we wanted to build in this final block of 8, and that we need to continue in the last 2.
Yeah, at Carrow Road there were so many positives. If the icing on the cake would be more clinical in front of goal, I guess.
Yeah, that, and obviously a couple of decisions which were questionable. So, but yeah, for me, what we have to keep proving at and keep working at is making sure that all the terrific play, all the good areas that we get into, that that you punish teams, you don't allow teams to stay in the game, and that's a bit that we have done, but we need to do more consistently.
What would it mean if you were to get positive results against Rotherham and Stoke and end the season on an 8-game unbeaten run going into the summer?
Yeah, I think the biggest bit is about progress and showing that we're moving forward, showing that moving in the right direction. We've obviously matched the points for last season. So again, I think with 2 to go, it's about improving and trying to beat that. I think it's around the performance side of it, showing that we're heading in the right direction. And that, like I said, when you see even when we had a couple of tough games, actually we were defending quite well still. Ipswich, for the majority of the games, one that jumps to mind straight away, that we defended extremely well. Even in the QPR, the Cardiff games, the defensive side was good. It's then building on that, making keep refining, keep tweaking, keep looking to get better at that, and the same with the ball. Keep working on areas that allow us to get the outcome from games that we want.
Nothing like a match day, and I don't want to wish this season away, but are you looking forward to the summer and having an extended spell of time with this set of players?
Yeah, pre-season's big, I think, in terms of how we work, especially learning how we want to play, learning roles. The lads have done a terrific job of learning in game, and that especially early on. Obviously we came in, start middle of November, and obviously had the international break, but then went into a December, January, and February where it was a game every not far off 3.5 days. So to lay down some of the principles and recreate some of the pictures the game that players get in game. Having pre-season allows you to do that. So we go hard physically, but we also go quite hard and heavy tactically on what it looks like. So I'm really excited in terms of where the group are at. And now in terms of, it's about now chasing consistency and fine tuning and adding little bits rather than, major things.
And another positive is that the majority of the squad are tied down and will be here in August. But football, inevitably, some players will be playing their last game for Bristol City at Ashton Gate this weekend. I mean, have you had conversations with players? Do you and the players know if they'll be here or not next season? Or are they conversations you haven't had and you'll wait until the end of the season?
Yeah, they haven't happened yet. There'll be things that'll happen in the next week or two. So for me, it's we're still finalising things, and then of course my first protocol will always be to have a chat with the players.
Joe Williams, of course, is one of those players out of contract in the summer, and accept that you're going to have chats with him. But how well is he playing at the moment? He's playing probably the most amount of football he's played since joining Bristol City, and how much has he impressed you in the City midfield?
Yeah, he's done great. I think he's been brilliant. I think the big bit is enjoying it as well, which I always think helps. I think when you look at players, I think sometimes we forget the human behind them, and I think if their head's in a good space, they're enjoying what they do, they look forward to turning up, and they've got clarity. I think it allows them to perform to a higher level. So he's done brilliantly. I've been really, really pleased with that, and it's the challenge is now to sustain that in the next two. And I think what's helped is the people around him as well. I think when I look across the group, Joe's obviously for me improved, and I think a lot of the lads have as well. I think that's the bit that credit to the staff in what we do and how we work is around coaching, is around improving people and improving players. And Hayden, another one that jumps to mind straight away. I thought he was excellent at the weekend, and he's progressively got better and found more consistency, which is where we want to get the team and where we want to get individuals within it.
With that labelling, hey, when you joined, he was probably a backup player. Is he now a first team player?
Yeah, no, he was injured when we first joined. So I think in terms of, I never saw him as a backup player. I don't see anyone like that. I think it's more around having a strong group to compete. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is using that competition, and you need everybody. I think that's, if you were to probably go through each championship side and see how many players we used across the season, I'm sure it'd be above 30. So again, I think in terms of that, it's then, it's on the players then to step up and grab the opportunity. And you can only do that if you're ready, if you train, if you're open to learning, if you step on the training pitch every day and work hard to get better, and then you transfer that into the game. And I think what Hayden's done a good job of is progressively improve and find that level of consistency, and that he has to keep pushing, because I still think he's got more to come, and I still think he can get better, which I'd say to probably most of the players in the group. So he's done a terrific job. He had to be patient at the start, which I remember speaking to him about, but that what it shows is that ultimately when you get the opportunity, you need to be ready to grab it.
With next season in mind, is he a centre back, a left back, or both?
Next season's a long way. I've got Saturday to worry about first. So again, I think they're the bits for me. I think the added advantage of what we do and how we work, and when you look at the lads, they can play multiple positions. So we've done it with Knighty, we've done it with Sykesy, George Tanner. You could probably go through a large number of the group, and Anis played inside, played wide. When you look at it, we've got flexibility and within the group, which I like having.
And Dio's been on the bench unused, but from your point of view, are you seeing him on the training ground? Is that your way of looking at him, or would you like to see him in first team action to get a real feeling of how he's progressed since joining the club on loan?
Yeah, his level in training has been decent this week, to be fair. So again, I think it's one where he might get an opportunity in the coming days. And like I said about Hayden, he now needs to be ready. I think it's about whatever the opportunity, make sure you grab it and show what you can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just quickly going back, and don't want to dwell on it too much, but you said the couple of decisions. So do you think offside for Norwich's goal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing it about that, Corns, yeah, for me.
And Corns was onside?
For me, yeah. It's always tight, the angle, but I think because Corns moves early, it looks like he's offside, but actually, again, for me, it's a goal.
That's not something that PGMOL, you speak to that?
Yeah, we'll query stuff. To be fair, Pat's actually away today, so Pat does that and gets a report. I haven't spoken to him yet, so
okay,
I don't
so
know
you don't know if
anything's...
anything's...
No, not as of yet, no.
Okay. You were at the 21s yesterday. I just wondered what you sort of took away from that.
Yeah, no, I thought there was some good bits. There was some crazy bits as well.
Some crazy bits, yeah.
Some head scratching bits when I'm seeing people dribble in their own box with it, which again we like to build up, but again I think it has to be with purpose. So yeah, there was some decent bits, to be fair. I thought it was. What I haven't had to question since I've joined the club when watching academy teams is that the attitude of the lads. I think that's the big thing that's impressed me is, and Brian's done a great job with the academy staff, is the lads want to run, they want to work, they want to compete, they're front-footed. which when you look at, in my position, their behaviours are massive and will allow, players to be successful, in the future at this club, but also if they do have to move on in the game and go elsewhere in the pyramid. So, yeah, there was, like I said, it was a bit of everything, good, bad and ugly in the whole game. And it was nice to get down there and see them. Same as now. Obviously, we've got the 18s here, which I'm looking forward to finishing the interview and getting out and watching.
Okay. Jamie Knight-Labelle, good header.
Great header.
Yes.
Great ball as well, yeah.
It was a good ball in. He played 60 minutes. I just wonder if that was with any look to anything, or am I trying to
reading into things? Yeah, no. To be fair, it was actually an accumulation. If you look at what he's done, but also he actually felt his back a little bit at the weekend. So we wanted to make sure that this stage of the season he could have probably played on, but the decision was just obviously look after him a little bit.
On Joe, and you mentioned Hayden has still got room to improve, and Joe, I think everyone would agree this has been his best season at the club. Do you think there's more to come from him as well?
I think so, yeah. I think when you look at it, I think he's made. I can only assess what I worked with when I came in, and obviously where he's at now. I think he's made strides forward in his emotional control. I think he's got that bite, he's got that aggression, he's got that tenacity. I think it's making sure it's under control, which I think he's done a good job of, because that allows him to stay focused and in game. So you want to keep the hunger and the bite, but not to the detriment of doing what the team needs you to. So that I think some of the tactical bits and some of the bits with the ball. I think across the team, when you look at it, Joe included, I think, more goals from everywhere. I think that's the biggest bit in terms of chipping in with goals, whether it be, Rob's done a great job, but, for me, I'm going, Zach, come on, you need to score more. I think, 90, Tails, Joe, you could arguably go through, JMO, you could go through a lot of the team. And you, ultimately, if you want to, be successful, you need goals from a variety of sources.
That emotional control, then, is that something he's done, off his own back, or is that something you've worked specifically with him and with the players? And how have you done that, if you have done that?
We had a good morning on it this morning, to be totally honest. I think it starts with awareness. I think that's the biggest bit. And again, I think people misread what I say and don't listen properly, I think, at times, in terms of I want players to be emotional. I want them fully invested. I want them right on that borderline of control and no control, because again, I think that passion, that hunger, that fire, that drive has to be in you. And then I think the biggest bit is just recognising that when you do step over and the red mist sinks it, how quickly can you bring it back into control? Because again, what you don't want is rash decisions, rash actions, because it ultimately hurts you or costs you. So whether that be with cards, whether it be with being in the right position, wrong position, missing a tackle, fouling, whatever it might be, it can sometimes lead to negative actions which we don't want. So again, I think we tried to do it a little bit today in terms of create chaos, give bad decisions in game. And then the awareness element, I think it always starts with that. If you have a conversation with it and you're aware of it, you're able to, maybe improve how you deal with it. So it's no different for me to finishing, to improving your heading, is working at it. And for us as staff, we try to recreate some of those scenarios and situations for them.
I was going to say, in terms of techniques, is there any external stuff, people or experts or anything that you've worked on?
No, definitely not. I'm not sitting here saying I'm an expert on it. I think psychology is something that I think underpins everything. Hence, I talk to you a lot about behaviours. I think we can give them all the tactical information, but what you then naturally get is a load of pressure thrown in, which then sometimes it's bravery, sometimes it's focus, sometimes it's discipline. It always tends to be a behaviour thing that then changes what happens in the game, and that for me, like I said, is stuff that we talk around and we make players aware of. So when we review clips at times, we talk around focus, we talk around the discipline to play the structure. A big one for us probably this season is the bravery to go and take risks against the block, slide it in behind. Be brave enough to do that. It's not necessarily the tactical or technical side. It's actually being brave enough to try it and take the risk. So I think that for me underpins everything that we do. That psychological aspect. So. It's something I've kind of looked into for years and years, and Hoggy's really interested in. It's something that we're quite aligned on, and again, I think it all then starts with awareness for me.
That psychological aspect, and therefore kind of working within players. I guess there are some certain types of players that are more open to it than other types of players. Would that be fair?
Definitely.
And that feeds into recruitment, I guess, in terms of the types of individuals you want to sign. Would that be fair?
Yeah, it was definitely. I think when you look at recruiting a player or a player you've got, I think it's understanding the whole package, the whole makeup of them, and then understanding what do they need, what are they good at. Sometimes you don't find that out until they're in the door, so that can be challenging. But I think the biggest bit is you try and do as much work as you can to to understand the person and the player. And again, I think it's when you watch a game, if positionally, if someone's in the right position, wrong position, is it because they switch off? So that for me is focus, that's concentration. It's an easy thing to see. I think the same as ball turns over, does somebody want to recover quickly? That's that's a desire, that's a drive, that's also a focus thing. Because if you're watching the game, you tend to be outside it rather than and you watch our lads. I think do a really good job when we lose it. Everybody sprints to get back behind it. That's a behavioural thing as well. So again, I think it is something that I'm big on in terms of understanding the person, the character. And normally, I think the biggest thing we need people that are coachable, especially how we work and the information we give, and being able to transfer that into games. You need people that are coachable, which again is another really difficult thing to find out.
In terms of character, sort of Jason Knight, that's one of his huge attributes, and I imagine everyone who works with him kind of says that. Where he's kind of playing now, because funnily enough, obviously your very first game, you put him in a deeper role, didn't you? And then he ended up finishing at QPR, finishing in the 10. And then therefore kind of played there. And now he's gone back. It's looking great. I just wondered, at any stage, has that always been your thought, to move him back into the number 8, if you like, or as one of the 2 6s, however you see it? Or is that just kind of, that's been a steady realisation by you? Like, because you played in there in the first game, I just wonder, is that always the plan, if you like?
I think Knight's done a great job there. I also think the people around him have helped that. I think it shows how far the group have come in terms of understanding how to play the positional game a little bit. So again, I think QPR jumps to mind, and one of Knight's biggest assets is his ability and desire to run. And sometimes when you play that more central position, it's knowing where to run, when to run, and how to run. And I think that's the bit where, because they've all progressed in terms of understanding how we want to play and the shape and structure to play off of. I think he's really, really improved at that side of it. So now, rather than covering every blade of grass, he covers the ones that he needs to. So I think he's definitely, and it's something, I'm not going to sit here and say it was a plan to do it long term. Again, I think it was, I'm pretty open. I'm not fixed on you have to be this. I think you can tweak things, you can change things, you can be adaptable. I think there's no reason you have to pigeonhole people to be certain positions or certain profiles. I think there's a real skill, I think, for us at the minute that we have to keep building on is our adaptability. So I think it was quite clear identity against Norwich, but within it you can make tweaks and changes. And then the way we try to coach the players is that you can play multiple roles within that.
The running less, running smarter type idea, if you like, that's applicable to Tommy as well in terms of his work off the ball. Maybe I just wondered, going back to Richard's question and the kind of the conversations going into summer, is there any sort of update on Tommy's situation at all?
Not at the moment. We're really keen to keep him. I think we've been quite clear on that, and offer's gone into him, so the decision will be with him ultimately, I think. But he's been great. I love working with him. I think he's one that I think we can have a real positive impact on his career. I don't think he's someone that has to chase anything too soon. I think he's. I think since if you look at his journey so far this season, even the weekend, I think he's improving and getting much better. So I think that consolidating and actually going in. For me, he should be targeting 15 goals plus next season. That should be the aim for him. So again, I think he's someone that when you look at it, his defensive side's terrific. I think even the weekend, the cross at the near post that he nearly scores. I think he's now starting to get in better areas, and part of it, having Twiney, I think helps that. You see the relationship between him and Twiney, the little link up, I think is massive. So I'll be quite. Tommy's someone that we want to keep, and the ball's in his court a little bit now.
Do you think? And I appreciate it's different, but. This, I mean, I guess you're going to say yes, but this is the best place for him in terms of his, not just his immediate development, but his long-term development as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm quite clear, and I think the club's been quite clear, and Brian has, to be fair. I think we're ambitious where we want to go. I think in terms of, that's why I joined, because of what I spoke about with John and Brian and where the club wants to get to. I think we have to show that in terms of our actions, what we do in the summer. With who we bring in and what we do with the group. So we have to show, we can talk about being ambitious, we have to show it with the actions that you do. So hopefully we can do that in the summer. And then for me, I think it's about trying to get the team where we want to get it to, which is obviously pushing as high up the table as we can and progressing and moving forward and ultimately competing to get where everybody wants to, which is obviously in the long term is the Premier League is where everybody wants to get to. And I also think there's an element where you also have to be realistic. If someone's journey goes a lot quicker than the teams, then of course naturally there's a discussion to be made about people's futures and where they go. But I think where Tommy's at the minute, for me, I think he's in the best place possible, and I definitely see next season this being the best place for him.
Going back to the Zach, the Zach conversation, injuries. Something you've mentioned about looking at programs and how you've done. There was something that was highlighted in the week. There was a body alignment coach was at the club to work with some of the players. I just wondered if that was something that was your call, or was that something the medical department?
Yeah, that wasn't on me, but there's discussions going on about it. There's constant people, I think, in terms of what we need to do in terms of moving forward and assessing how we work and reviewing everything. I think naturally happens. It should be. It's best practice for me. Yeah, it's definitely at the end of the season, obviously, where you've got that period of time to reflect and review. Everybody, individually, collectively, departments should be reviewing and assessing how they work, and then whether it be seeking external support and advice, or having discussions in house. They're things that are happening and will happen in the next few weeks.
Probably maybe a little bit early in terms of pre-season. Have you got to that in terms of planning pre-season?
Every day's planned already.
It's all okay. So is there anything sort of what does a good pre-season look like for you?
Good pre-season. Getting to the end of it with everybody in the best shape possible, clear on their jobs and fit and available for game one. I think the biggest bit we obsess on planning. So the 6 weeks, the return dates, the testing, the staff meetings, then the 6 weeks are planned in terms of what session we do each day, what running activity they're doing each day, what distances need to cover across the course of that. There's no excuse not to plan that stuff. And then, of course, when you're in it, then you have to be a little bit reactive. You have to, tweak certain things, but at least you've got the nucleus of a plan to work off. So, we had a meeting about it yesterday in terms of, the whole staff going through what that looks like. And again, I think the big bit is it gives you an opportunity to get some of the core principles and build on some of the stuff we've done, and especially how we work, the volume of content and the decision-making element, which I've spoken about before, players being able to make good decisions and problem solve, that you can replicate on the grass, and you can kind of go through that review process in a slightly less pressurised environment, but it's easier to recreate some pictures in the game. So one that we've done recently, a little 4v3 practice. So when we do regain it and we're counter-attacking and we get these pictures of 3v2, 4v3, we can actually design a session and deliver it. So we'll periodise it tactically. We'll spend a week on each of the phases, and then we'll link the phases, and you get obviously the opportunity of the games to try and bring it out. And the 18s have just scored.
Sorry, how match heavy do you like a pre-season to be? Are you big on matches, or do you kind of try and keep that to a minimum?
Yeah, most of the matches they're pretty much all done now as well. So again, the whole 45-minute thing, we just do an internal game. And then we build them up. So the aim is to try and get every player, an internal 45 or 60, and then 2, 3 90s ultimately.